Sir, and we are back again to the industry, and this is another very important area of security, cyber security, cyber resilience, and how that is critical when you are delivering services to citizens, the government services. To know more about cyber resilience, and especially on a lot of cloud-based applications now, I would like to call Mr. Lov Vashist, Sales Engineering from Netskope.
At the outset, really want to thank, and I feel grateful and honored that I'm sharing the stage with some of the key technology and government honorable members and speakers. Um, I think the theme for the today is digital empowerment, right? And what I believe, or what we believe, is that this empowerment is being driven by technology. Of course, everyone would agree. And due to this, there has been a lot of transformation in the past 3 years, especially with the advent of COVID and that pandemic, where we started to work hybrid all of a sudden, or from home, from anywhere actually, and that led to usage of technology that we haven't seen before, right? And so I'll talk more about those things in my slide. And during the course of the day, I've heard so many terms that have been used, and 3 years back those were only terms, but today we see them as reality, and we'll talk about those. So I'll start with uh, what we used to do, and what we currently do as well in some part of things, because as I said, it's a transformation is a journey which happens in phases. So what used to happen was, we used to have our crown jewels, our resources, our applications, in a trusted zone, which we used to protect with firewalls and certain other security devices, right? So earlier, the understanding, the traditional way of thinking was, whatever is inside this trusted zone is trusted, and anything outside, which is internet as well, is untrusted. And we divided the access and ways we can access things based on these zones. Now, um, we can also think of it as kind of a castle that we built around our resources. And there's a drawbridge or a moat where we only allow certain things which we trust, and we block those things we do not trust. uh, those things changed with, and of course, I'll take that name again, with COVID. Those things changed when we tried to deliver services wherever the users are. Things started to change. Earlier, what happened was that we had data centers. Now we still have data centers, but what I mean to say is that all the data, all the critical infrastructure lied and centered into one universe, which we saw as a castle before this slide, right? So in a usual scenario, we have a head office, we have branch, and we have some remote workers. Remote workers usually connect using a VPN, and branch offices probably via MPLS or branch to branch connectivity. But the main message here is that everyone needed to come back to that castle in order to access the internet or other services outside of that zone, which means all the security, all the services were centered and focused in that center, in that data center. Now, with COVID, with work from anywhere, with hybrid workforce and digitally native workforce, what has changed is data centers have changed to centers of data, which means if I talk today, every one of us is carrying multiple devices, and I think many devices today, including a smartwatch or a tablet or a mobile phone, and we are working from anywhere and everywhere today, right? So every laptop, every device that you hold today, which is a smart device, or even unintelligent device like a camera or something, is a center of data today. So earlier, what we used to protect in a perimeter is perimeterless now. There is no boundary that we can create around where we have our data, because I have my company's data in my mobile phone, in my smartwatch. I can, it's everywhere, and it's the same for the government as well. As we are extending services, as we talk about this digital empowerment, the way to deliver these services is majorly internet. So how do we form a perimeter around something that is so huge and wide, right? Uh, with this, we have seen a lot of change in the way we work, and also, so today, I think every organization, whether it is government, and like our speakers mentioned, UP, Uttar Pradesh has been one of the pioneers in this department. So We have so many applications, so many services that is being provided. And again, as the term was used, we don't need too many products or services. We need a platform, and that's what we are preparing. I mean, in terms of government or products, right? Every technology company is now thinking about a platform, and that's where we are, right? Now, with this change, we became more flexible, more agile in the way we deliver our services, in the way employees or users access these services, utilize these services. Now, with every good comes a little bad, right? So what happened is, with this agility and flexibility, we kind of, it was really difficult to control. It is really difficult to control where the data is, how to protect that, right? And eventually, in the course of the last, 9, 10 years, we've seen a sharp rise in increase of threats, ransomwares, name it WannaCry, name it NotPetya, or any other thing, right? And if you look at the slide, the sudden rise after 2020 is exponential, because now attackers or hackers or bad vectors do not only have to target your castle, but they can target any user, any device. Data is everywhere, and I can easily act, because now my employees are working from anywhere, and so I have to give them access to the data from everywhere. So if I access or get control of a device anywhere, I can literally get into everything, right? So sharp rise in threats. Now, the typical approach to this used to be, okay, we got a new kind of threat, let us add another kind of product. Let us add something for ransomware, let us add something for viruses, or things like that, right? Ultimate goal, what we feel for any kind of threat or attack is ultimately data. And I think in the first inaugural session, our honorary speaker mentioned that petrol used to be gold and now data is gold, right? So moving on, these threats actually increase the pressing problems where data is important and data is everywhere. So not only do we have to deal with data breaches from the outside world, where maybe sensitive data is being leaked outside, or is a threat from the outside world, um, we also have to deal with data risk from malicious insiders. And not only malicious insiders, most of us, not every one of us is a techie guy or a technology person, but every one of us has access to data today. So it can be a negligent insider also, which, if I'm a non-technical guy, I don't understand, how these things work. I can easily fall prey to social engineering. I can click on a phishing link. I can probably open a malicious website and lose my data. And ultimately, every organization, be it government, be it a private or a corporate organization, has to adhere to some kind of standards. Data is important, data is sensitive, and we need to adhere to some kind of compliance frameworks or regulatory guidelines in order to make sure that we are secured and our data is safe, right? So what is happening? What happened was, this digital transformation happened. And it happened so quickly because we were already on this way, but because of the pandemic, it actually accelerated in a way we couldn't have imagined. So along with this transformation, the network and the perimeter disappeared. So what we see today is this transformation, this digital transformation, which is bringing the digital empowerment in place, also requires a security transformation. What we mean with that is, if you look at this timeline of the slide, initially the network perimeter disappeared, right? And then we saw a lot of applications moving to the cloud. So during the pandemic, on-prem applications actually started moving to hybrid, to cloud-based services like Office 365. An example was given in some of the previous sessions about Coven, which is a huge success, right? And it was again hosted on the cloud. Because of the flexibility it required, because of the devices or the number of users accessing that service, right? So with the network perimeter being disappearing so fast, and our applications, going everywhere around the world. I mean, it could be on-prem, it could be hybrid, it could be on the cloud, based on the kind of work we did. We need something where this network and security converge. And this is what we call security service edge, which means the security also needs to be delivered to the users as a service, right? So which meant that my user should not need to come back to the castle in order to get the security scanned and go out to the world, uh, because it creates unnecessary lag, right? Unnecessary time. And one of the key priority for any organization or any project from the government is also based on the user experience. How well can you access those resources that you need to do the functions you need to do, right? So that brought in one more concept, that you cannot have the same security stack with every user. You cannot have a firewall at home. You cannot have so many appliances and devices at home. So consolidation, again, we heard a lot about products being consolidated into platform, and similar happens with security. We had proxies to cater to the web requests to the world. We had some security brokers to handle cloud application workloads. We had firewalls. We had SSL interception devices. We had multiple plethora of devices, right? Now with this transformation where everything is collated and anything and the data can be anywhere, we need these services to be converged. And that's where secure service edge or secure access service edge comes into play, which essentially means using the security as a service on a platform which can deliver that service to you no matter where you are, no matter which device you're logged in from, right? And that may include more than what is listed here, but just for highlighting some of the items is how do you access the web? So a secure web gateway makes sure that you access the web and access it securely. And zero trust based network access, which means I don't need to open holes into my network for people to come back and access applications, right? Can I do it more securely? Yes. Then again, data, which is today's gold. How can I protect that data from being leaked outside? May it be outsider attack or insider negligence or a threat, right? So all those things combined, and of course SD-WAN becomes integral part of that network modernization. So all these things have to come in one place in order to support this fast-moving transformation that is happening today, right? All this, when being delivered, also should be delivered based on zero trust. Now, what is zero trust? Zero trust is not a product. Zero trust is not a technical jargon, but it's kind of a framework, a strategic mindset, which says you should never trust and always verify. And all this, when I say always verify, it is a continuous process. Today's world is dynamic. A user, for example, me, I could be a safe user right now, but once I click on a link, I might become an unsafe user just after a minute. So I have to continuously verify and validate the risk and safety, not only the user, but also the applications they are accessing. Many reputed applications have had vulnerabilities, have had attacks. So there is no reputation today, right? Reputation is traditional now because anything can change. So never trust, always verify. Second is, of course, when I give access to my resources, I have to establish very, very strong identities, establish that my device postures are intact along with my compliances, and that I give access only to what is needed, right? You should not be opening the network to people or to employees or to users, but only give them what they require and nothing more, nothing less. And of course, we were talking about zero trust network access, where instead of opening holes into the network and incoming VPN connections, all this connection should be based on need-based and should be based on zero trust network access, which minimize the attack surface. That's the whole idea about it. So if you see this diagram which has appeared here, we have many pillars in zero trust. As I said, it's not a product. Number one is identity. Make sure who is the user, who is the person who's trying to access the resource. Second, device posture. You need to make sure that device being used is compliant and is secured. Third, of course, that's where we come into play. Netskope comes into play into the SASE. This is called SASE, which is Secure Access Service Edge, which becomes a central point or a gateway when so if you see on the bottom of the slide, you see endpoint machines. Now these endpoint machines could be anywhere, remote office, branch office, and then the resources that they need to access. So the service which is providing that security needs to come in between, intercept all the traffic that is going to the internet, to the cloud applications, to a public cloud like AWS or Azure or Google, or even if it's going to your on-prem data centers, this service plays a major role in establishing that. And the fourth is, of course, cement soar, where you do the analysis and correlation of all the threat landscape. Right. So along with threat protection that we spoke about ransomwares and other threats. The data protection, we see a lot of channels for the data getting leaked out of the organization. It could be web, which is the plain internet. It could be a SaaS application. For example, we are all used to Teams, Zoom, and WebEx now. What happens if somebody attaches a sensitive file in a Teams chat? So, for example, cloud can be a source there. And even your private applications, where I'm more concerned about what data is getting out of that application and going where. And of course, the email DLP. So all these, what we intended in the beginning to become, we are well on the way there now, is to become a single platform providing threat protection, data protection, and also networking modernization, which follows the user everywhere they go along all the devices that they carry. If you talk about certain projects that we saw, we have many initiatives like SDC, Smart Cities, SWAN, and healthcare. Right? For example, if a data center wants to talk to another data center, or if, for example, a police station wants to communicate with another police station, or likewise, IoT device inside a street surveillance camera or inside a printer wants to connect to an internet service or to another branch. So what it happens is you have these category of users or devices that you have on the bottom of the screen. It might be a mindless IoT, or it might be a smart device or a smart user. And you have these projects which are ultimately trying to access applications. Either it is an internet-based application or a private application, or it may be a ecosystem app. For example, if you access Facebook might rely on multiple other backend apps, ecosystem apps. So how do you secure these things when you can't put a boundary around all this, right? That's where we come in. That's where Zero Trust comes in. And we become the interception point and basically secure all your data. We'll be really glad to welcome you to the stall that we have, and we welcome your participation. And thanks a lot for getting us here.